Well, good afternoon. Like Chris this morning, I have a lot of pictures of my kids in my presentations, and one, they're photogenic, and two, it illustrates a lot of the goals that we have with water and green infrastructure, that the sense of discovery as kids interact with water, and the fact that hopefully with the green infrastructure we can have water that's clean enough to interact in. Growing up on a farm in southern Illinois, one of my fondest childhood memories was exploring creeks as a child. But unfortunately, with some of our suburbanization, urbanization, those connections to our creeks and other green infrastructure has been cut off. If you're familiar with southwestern Illinois and HeartLands Conservancy, our focus area is the 7 counties down near St. Louis. And you can see it's some dense urban areas, so it's rural areas, and we're surrounded by water, the Mississippi, the confluence of the Kaskaskia to the north, the Missouri, and the Illinois rivers. And historically, we've had these connections also. You can see this is the areas, the American Bottoms, historic floodplains to the east of St. Louis. And this area historically was a majority of wetlands, a large percentage of wetlands. But unfortunately, we've had many of those areas cut off through ag and industrial development. But even with some of these fragments, we still have opportunities to connect. My kids again. And you can see this is Horseshoe Lake, and we're in the shadow of the arch. You know, the arrow here points. You can see the arch in the foregrounds. So even with some of these cutoffs and some of these remnants, we still have opportunities to connect back to nature and to green infrastructure. How do we do that? How do we do that? Talk briefly about 2 projects. One is here in Alton, Illinois, a degraded stream going through an old golf course corridor, eroded, low quality, a stream buffer. We've been working with the city on restoring this with help from the state, restoring this creek, incorporating best practices such as a riparian buffer, and really bringing this back. But also, it's hard to see in this picture, but you can see there's a trail kind of in the background, and really bringing people down to this area to experience it. We also knew that this area was going to be developed around it, so we've been working with the city in developing a master plan around this creek for future development. When it does happen, that the city can preserve their investment with the green infrastructure, and really developing a set of kind of strict codes to really help enforce better stormwater quality and other aspects in dealing with stormwater. But I want to spend the rest of the presentation talking about work we're doing near Collinsville, Illinois, with the Arlington's Wetlands Interpretive Site. And Arlington Wetlands is a remnant kind of oxbow as part of the Mississippi that was cut off. But it still has a large water body surrounded by farm fields that are currently being restored to prairie areas. And the exciting thing about this site is its closeness to the proximity of not only St. Louis, but the rest of the urban core. So as school kids, as other people come to this site, they can easily access Arlington and really experience the site and see the different examples here. And this kind of shows the proximity of the site. The main water body there is in blue, but the orange line represents one of our key interbelts in the St. Louis region, Interstate 255. So you see that kind of proximity and access that it has to kind of the surrounding kind of urban development. And getting kids out, getting residents out to really experience the site. The key thing here is this 450-foot long boardwalk that will be part of the site. I think it may be the longest boardwalk in the Metro East area. But kids and adults and other visitors going out in the middle of the water basin, touching the water, touching the plants, and you see the kind of the context of the boardwalk there, crossing the site. Some other work we're doing in terms of restoring prairie areas on both sides, restoring some wetland areas, and doing some other best practices, including one of the future visions of this will also be a future visitor center, working with one of our partners. So as kids come in, other groups come in, more interpretive and educational programs to the visitor center. We'll also be showcasing best practices. Besides the natural environments such as the wetland and the prairie areas, we'll be using best practices such as permeable paving, parking lot, to show visitors as they come in what they can do with stormwater instead of just running off of impervious of pavement surfaces, and showing them some practices that infiltrate that stormwater long term. kind of wrapping up, I want to kind of focus on a few items. One is partnerships. We've been very fortunate through this process to have good partners both locally, regionally, and a statewide level, bringing them in through all phases of the project, both from the initial planning now through implementation, which will happen, hopefully it'll happen this fall in terms of the grand opening, and also volunteers throughout the process. We've had some volunteer cleanup days and restoration days on the property. So getting those partners together, creating a sense of buy-in as we move forward. And then two, connectivity. We've been talking about getting people connected to these natural systems, the green infrastructure, but also the connections with habitat and systems. This shows our Arlington wetlands to the north, and then to the south, we're working with some properties and other partners here to the south. So these areas are starting to connect. We talk about remnants. Projects like Arlington wetlands starts to connect some of these areas back into those systems. And then finally, kind of going back to the kids. When kids are young, 4, 5, and 6, their experiences are very tactile, whether they're walking through the prairie or jumping on that boardwalk in the future. But hopefully as they get older, 9, 10, 11, 12, they start to take advantage and learn about some of the more scientific aspects of this site as they start to see some of our interpretive signage that we have and learn more about how this site fits within the greater context of the Mississippi River Basin, of the importance of wetlands, and they take those lessons, and then 20 years from now, when they look back on their fond childhood memories, they remember not only jumping on the boardwalk, but some of the key lessons learned from this project. So with that, I thank you.